do something for me right now or the next time you're near a fridge. Pour a glass of milk, drink it, and then just wait. 20 minutes, 30. Pay attention to your stomach. If nothing happens, no bloating, no cramps, no sudden urgent walk to the bathroom, then congratulations. You just did something most adult humans on this planet cannot do. Because here's the thing, nobody tells you. Being able to drink milk as a grown adult is not the normal setting for our species. It's the exception. Most adults on Earth can't fully digest it. Their bodies switched the ability off years ago, exactly the way evolution intended. Yours didn't. And the reason it didn't is a tiny genetic mutation, a single change near one gene that your ancestors picked up at some point in the last several thousand years. It rewrote how your gut works for the rest of your life. So today, what that switch is, why almost everyone's is set to off, how yours got stuck on, and the honest mystery scientists are still arguing about because we know what happened, but not fully why. This is Unstuck. Grab your milk. Let's get the numbers straight, because they're the opposite of what most people assume. If you grew up somewhere where milk is just on every table, cereal, coffee, cheese, ice cream, you probably think drinking milk is the default human thing to do. Everybody can, right? Globally, no. Roughly 2/3 of adults worldwide can't properly digest lactose, the sugar in milk. So the ability you might have drinking a glass of milk with zero consequences puts you in the minority of humans alive today. Not the majority, the minority. And it's not spread evenly. In some populations, almost every adult keeps the ability. In others, almost nobody does. Same species, completely different setting on the same switch. Sit with that for a second. This isn't a rare disease we're talking about. The can't drink milk version isn't the broken one. It's the original. It's the factory default for a mammal. If anything, you are the strange edit. So what exactly is this switch, and why does nearly everyone's turn off? Here's the part that makes it click. Every healthy human baby can digest milk. All of them. That's the whole point of being a mammal. You start life running on your mother's milk. To break it down, your body makes an enzyme called lactase. Lactase is the tool that cuts lactose, the milk sugar, into pieces small enough to absorb. Babies are loaded with lactase. They have to be. But then something happens. As you grow up and get weaned onto solid food, most humans slowly stop making it. The gene that produces lactase gets dialed down. By adulthood, it's running at a fraction of its baby level output, sometimes almost nothing. And that makes complete evolutionary sense. Think about it. For almost all of history, the only milk a human ever drank came from their mother as an infant. After weaning, there was no milk ever again. No cows, no fridge. No reason to keep spending energy making an enzyme for a food you'd never see. So the body does the efficient thing, job's done, switch it off. That switch off is the default program running in most people on Earth. Drink milk as an adult with that program, and the undigested lactose travels down to your gut bacteria, which throw a party. The gas, the bloating, the cramps, that's the party. Which raises the real question. If turning lactase off is the standard human setting, why is yours still on? The answer is a mutation. A specific, tiny change in your DNA. It doesn't sit inside the lactase gene itself. It sits just next to it in a stretch of DNA that acts like a volume knob for that gene. In most people, that knob turns the lactase gene down after childhood. But in some people, a single letter of DNA got changed, and that change jams the knob in the on position. The result, the lactase gene never gets the memo to shut down. You keep making the enzyme your whole life. You stay, in the technical term, lactase persistent. You can drink milk at 40 the same way you could at 4. This isn't ancient either. On the evolutionary clock, it's brand new. This mutation started spreading through certain populations only after humans began herding animals and drinking their milk, a practice that shows up roughly 8,000 years ago. Timing daring begins around 8,000 years ago, but the persistence trait becomes common noticeably later. So the order of events is the fun part. We didn't evolve to drink milk and then invent dairy farming. We invented dairy farming first as a culture, as a habit, and only then did our biology start catching up. The mutation was chasing the cheese, not the other way around. But this is where the clean story starts to crack, because knowing when it spread doesn't tell us why it spread so hard and so fast, and that's an argument scientists are still having. Here's the puzzle. A mutation only sweeps through a population like this if it gives people a serious survival edge enough to out-reproduce everyone without it. So the ability to drink milk must have been a big deal. The obvious earliest guess, extra food. Milk is calories, protein, fat, and calcium available year-round from a living animal. If you can drink it without getting sick, you've got a food source your neighbors don't. Simple. Except the timing is weird. The trait didn't become common for thousands of years after people started dairying long after they were already making cheese and yogurt, which are lower in lactose and easier on the gut. If milk was such an easy win, why the delay? In 2022, researchers at UCL put forward a harder, darker idea. Label clearly. This is a hypothesis, not the settled answer. Their argument: in normal times, being lactose intolerant isn't dangerous. You just feel awful and avoid milk. But in a crisis, a famine, or an outbreak of disease, the stakes flip. A starving person with no other food might drink milk anyway. And in someone who can't digest it, that can turn into severe diarrhea, which, when you're already malnourished or sick, can kill you. So the edge might not have been milk is nice. It might have been, when everything else fails, the people who can safely drink milk are the ones who don't die. Selection sharpened by catastrophe, not comfort. Both stories fit some of the evidence, neither one fully closes the case, and that's the honest state of it. And now the detail that turns a neat story into a genuinely open question. This didn't happen just once. When scientists looked at milk drinking populations around the world, in Europe, in parts of Africa, in the Middle East, they found lactase persistence in multiple places, but not always from the same mutation. Different populations evolved different genetic changes that all landed on the same result: keep the lactase switch on. That's called convergent evolution, the same solution invented separately more than once, and it's a powerful clue. When evolution stumbles onto the same answer again and again in different places, it's usually because the pressure to solve that problem was enormous. Milk mattered a lot, independently, to very different people, but it also deepens the mystery, because each of those populations had its own history, its own animals, its own crises. There may not be one clean reason lactase persistence spread. There may be several: famine here, plain nutrition there, something we haven't pinned down somewhere else. So let's be honest about what we actually know. We know the switch exists, we know most humans turn it off, and that's the default. We know a mutation keeps yours on, and that it rode in on the back of dairy farming. What we don't fully know, what's still argued in the journals, is exactly what force pushed it so hard through the human family. You are, quite literally, walking around with an unfinished answer inside your own gut. So here's your self-check. If you can drink a glass of milk and feel fine, you're carrying one of evolution's newest edits, a switch that most of humanity turns off, jammed on in you by ancestors who bet their survival on an animal's milk. If milk means regret in 30 minutes, then congratulations, you're running the original human software. The default, the one we all started with, neither one is broken. They're just two different settings on the same ancient switch. So tell me in the comments, are you team milk is fine or team absolutely not? And vote in the pinned poll. I want to see how this channel splits. If you like discovering the strange little settings hidden in your own body, that's the whole point around here. There's a whole series of them. I'll see you in the next one. This was Unstuck. Thanks for watching.